Good stuff.
Football feast at Buffalo Wild Wings. Monticello continues. Fantasy football week number 7 commenced last night.
Yeah.
With Denver beating a toothless New Orleans Saints team.
We'll use commenced in air quotes.
Right.
For that game.
Yeah.
Oof.
I don't, what is it, Javonte Williams, the running back for
Yeah. Yep,
okay.
He had a good game.
Yeah, so, there are a couple there you can use. Ain't nobody using Bo Nix. Ain't nobody using Spencer Rattler. Shaheed dead for the year.
That's really sad.
I mean,
Shaheed was having a great year.
Yeah, so like my tight end situation in my only fantasy league ain't great. So then I look at Juwan Johnson no, that ain't. So it wasn't exactly a fantasy feast overall, but there were some points. But nevertheless, we continue into the weekend, and with the fantasy football feast, I think it behooves us outside of this covenant to begin with that Jets game and Devontae Adams practicing with the New York Jets. So can you start Devontae first game? It'll be on the road, a night game against the Steelers.
Well, let me start by asking you this. Can we agree that Aaron Rodgers helped engineer the trade that got Devontae Adams to the Jets?
Of course.
Absolutely true.
Yeah,
right?
Why do you ask the question?
Because, part 2, can we agree that Aaron Rodgers can be petty enough, I'll use the word petty enough to ensure that he validates the trade by peppering targets to Devontae Adams, even in his first game there, running like half the snaps.
Right. Well, you said lie. So, when Aaron Rodgers' lips move, it's a 78% he's lying when it's public, when it's something public. But yes, and Lazard has the most touchdowns for them. That's also Aaron's dog. Mm-hmm. But Tomlin's been around the block, and Mike has a little Super Bowl cred to him. And by the way, I think they just played the Raiders. So Tomlin just got ready for Devontae.
Yeah, isn't that funny? Twice.
And now he's going to come at him with Rodgers, not Aiden O'Connell. So Mike T will be ready.
Mike will be ready.
But do you start Devontae?
And this is why I think you do. I think Aaron's going to do whatever it takes to make sure that Adams has a good game here. I think he's sitting on I think he's going to do enough. Now, the hamstring injury, not a factor at this point anymore. But here's, at the end of the day, Paul, fantasy football is supposed to be fun. And I want Devontae Adams in my lineup on Sunday night.
Yeah.
Nationally televised game.
Love it.
Reunion with Aaron Rodgers.
Love it.
I want that drama in my life.
That's awesome.
At some point, I don't care that he's my number 35 ranked wide receiver. I just want him in my lineup, and I want to have the fun that's going to come with it during that game.
That's awesome how you laid that out. All right. Well, the Bills game is not a night game unless I'm wrong.
You are correct.
And Amari Cooper is now wearing the red, white, and blue of Buffalo immortality. So same thing. Do you start Amari Cooper game 1 with Josh Allen?
Now this one I'm going to wait a week on because of the opponent. And the Steelers are playing the Jets. Steelers defense is very good too. But get this about Tennessee. We think of them as sort of like a garbage franchise right now. But their defense is really good. They've allowed the fewest fantasy points per game to wide receivers, the fewest yards to wide receivers. We're heading into week 7. They've given up 2 touchdowns to wide receivers all year.
Oh, wow.
No receivers topped 67 yards against Tennessee.
Oh, wow.
Now, so I don't like Cooper this week, but long term, I love this landing spot, Paul. Amari Cooper gets Josh Allen.
Yeah.
The best quarterback he's had since Dak Prescott, and maybe the best quarterback he's ever had. He becomes the undisputed alpha receiver for Buffalo.
Yep.
Amari Cooper, it can be good, and I don't think he's washed at this point. If we just go back to the end of last season in those 5 games with Joe Flacco, Amari Cooper averaged 109 yards per game.
Wow.
He can still be good. Now, he's having a bad year. He's got the most drops in the NFL. Mm-hmm. ESPN ranks him as the least productive starting receiver in the league. Mm-hmm. But it's that malaise of death that's following Deshaun Watson right now.
That's awful.
It's so bad.
How about what do you think of this? What if I'm spitballing?
Yeah,
it's just riding a vibe. What if the Cleveland Browns let Joe Flacco walk in free agency? Because Deshaun knows he's better than him, and it would be a distraction.
Oh, 100% happened exactly that way. Wow. They wanted, they knew who the better quarterback was, but they couldn't put him on roster with Deshaun again because Deshaun would have unraveled.
What a disaster.
Knowing Joe Flacco's shadow was there behind all of his passes and everything.
Yeah.
And this Watson thing it's so diseased, Paul. By any metric you want, he's the worst quarterback in football. And yet here he is making $250 million.
All right, I have some more fantasy feast stuff for you in the final hour, but let's hit on some Vikings-Lions pressure points around the corner. But first, we have this.
The Fan, along with two men in a junk truck, they want to give you a chance to put $1,000 in your hand with the National Cash Contest. Go to KFAN.com, use the keyword check. The keyword is check. You might win $1,000 with the keyword check at KFAN.com.
The Con, rumor has it you have some pressure points you'd like to share, and good morning.
Good morning, indeed. Pressure points.
Pressure points.
I love that. Pressure points here. I'm going to play some audio from Justin Jefferson. You heard him talking about handsy corners earlier. Well, how about what he's thinking about Sam Darnold?
Just the way he come to work every single day, his preparation and his ability to lead is something that we see every single day, and something that we've seen in training camp before the season even started. That's something that's becoming new to everybody else, but not new to us. So it's something that we're still working towards. He's still trying to figure out the potential of this offense and how the potential of how he can play. So we're still figuring out things, but the ceiling is definitely high for him.
So that's Justin Jefferson on Sam Darnold. I'm putting a pressure point on the QB because there's been a lot of conversation and drilling down of what Sam hasn't done well or instances that we did not like, be it in London, the second half at Lambeau. But I'm looking forward to hearing from you in particular, Charge, in terms of what you think Sam can do really well this weekend against the Lions defense that Kevin O'Connell's offenses have absolutely feasted through the air on.
JJ brings up a great point. Because Sam was so good right away, we just sort of, I think there's a lot of us that are almost expecting the other shoe to drop and that he's going to get worse. But he's just getting more and more reps in the Kevin O'Connell system. There's a scenario here where Sam gets better. The more he learns, the more time with his receivers, and gets fully integrated into this thing. I mean, there are more reasons to think Sam's going to at least stay at where he is, if not get better, then there are reasons to think that Sam Darnold's going to get worse. And this Lions defense is still very attackable through the air.
Big time.
We had highlighted the trouble that Terry and Arnold's had as a rookie, although getting better. Carlton Davis has had, and if they've got to go past Carlton Davis, if they're going to put Kindle Vildor on the field, game on, baby. I mean, that becomes a magnet for your targets. I'd simply be, well, look, we know the book on Kindle Vildor. Get it? We know the book on Kindle Vildor.
Love it.
You like that one? Feel free to sprinkle that in on
Outside
Sunday.
of the Bible, the last book I read was Unbroken, and you gave it to me.
I did. The book is out on Kindle Vildor. We'll have potentially a very, very good game coming against him. We saw Kindle Vildor play for the Bears. They tried to work. They were forced to put him on the field some, and then after cutting him, they did nothing but draft cornerback, so they never had to put Kindle Vildor on the field again. So it would be fantastic if he's on the field. We would love that opportunity, but no matter what, I like the opportunity we're going to have here. Lions are a really good run defense, Paul. Other than Kenneth Walker, who by the way is great. Kenneth Walker's a really good running back. Mm-hmm. Nobody else has done anything against the Lions on the ground. Mm-hmm. It is a brutal matchup. Non-Kenneth Walker starters are averaging 28 rushing yards against the Lions. Only, again, and he's I believe the only running back who has found the end zone against them as well. The path of least resistance is through the air, and we're going to see Sam Darnold chucking balls a lot.
Wow, 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 wow.
Pressure points.
So let's look at it from the other side of things, Charge. A pressure point into Sunday, the Vikings pass rush. Jared Goff does not get sacked very often. He's got a 9-yard per attempt stat that's pretty gaudy. And we've also seen
that's number one in the NFL.
I believe it is number one.
And we've seen the explosion. It's not a renaissance because we hadn't seen it yet, but like Jamison Williams, they're starting to really utilize him in explosive fashion through 6 weeks. So how do you attack Jared Goff? Like when you're analyzing for Fantasy Football Weekly, you're looking at Jamison Williams, you're looking at Amon-Ra and Laporta and these guys. But the Vikings defense has been so good thus far, not only getting to the QB, they're third in the NFL with 20 sacks, but they're also forcing shorter throws. They're making teams work laterally, and above all else, they're attacking the bleep out of these teams early in games, which helps create those advantages and some of those turnovers.
Yep.
How are you viewing our pass rush and the pressure on them to mitigate the explosiveness of Goff and that Kitty's offense?
Jared Goff has been unbelievably efficient. Efficient is the perfect word for him. They don't throw very often. He's only averaging 28. He's thrown 28 or fewer times in 4 or 5 games. And they don't want him to. They want to run the ball and establish that, and then let Goff feed off the play action and just be efficient. Complete passes, let his superstar receivers do the things that they do after the catch. And the way that you can attack them is through repetition and volume, because that's not the Jared Goff game. His game is all about handful of passes, high efficiency passes. His completion percent is 71%. But let's see what happens if you can take away the beloved running game and you can put Jared Goff on a 35 pass game. You're going to see a different Jared Goff. And the guy that can make mistakes, and the guy who, unlike everything we've seen this year, where he's been just sterling in this, but put him on a game where he has to go win it through sheer volume. And that's a real pathway to get Goff out of the comfort zone that whole offense has got, built on the 2 running backs and then just delivering a handful of high efficiency passes. So, yeah, to me, that's your pressure point, is volume on Jared Goff and putting them in a position like the Vikings have done to every opponent, is made them pass like the entire second half of a game. That's how we can get to Jared Goff and get him out of their comfort zone.
Pressure points. On my final one, I wanted to get your take on this, Church, because PA and I have talked about it, and every guest in studio this week have talked about it. Aiden Hutchinson gone for the season, the amount of statistical equity. I mean, he carries a mountain of productivity for this Lions defense. So with that said, have a day offensive line. You're going to see some different names in the mix. You might have Aaron Glenn doing more blitzing with that defense. Ed Ingram, I'm looking at him as Dalton Reisner's practice window as he nears health. He's becoming available. My final pressure point is simply the Minnesota Moving Company having their best day of the season against this Kitties defense.
Even without Aiden Hutchinson, and I'm not in any way underplaying Aiden Hutchinson's impact, but even without him, as Paul outlined earlier, there's still rushing talent on this team that you're gonna have to work with. Ed Ingram is really the only part of this offensive line that continues to struggle. He's allowed 17 pressures. That's the 4th most among all guards. He ranks 56th among guards in Pro Football Focus's run blocking. And Dalton Reisner says he's ready. I think Viking fans want to see a switch there. I don't think there's going to be a wholesale switch coming this week. I think you might see a few plays, but that might be it. Ed Ingram has been good enough that he hasn't cost this team a loss to this point, but needs to play better. And I think most people recognize that. I don't think we're saying anything that Ed Ingram wouldn't say himself. Dalton Reisner gives you the opportunity, perhaps, to at least test the waters, get some reps in, and see if Reisner's ready to be an upgrade. Now, the Dalton Reisner we saw last year was not a market upgrade over Ed Ingram. I think it was sort of a lateral move, and so
in pass protection, I think it was.
I think it was an upgrade.
Yeah,
that may be. I think almost certainly that would be the case, given where Ed Ingram has been so far. Ingram's a better run blocker than he is pass protector. So I'd like to see Reisner get in for a few plays, get his feet wet, make sure he's feeling fully healthy, and then let's see after that. Let's see where the Rams game what that looks like.
We will get the thoughts of Alec Lewis, who covers the Minnesota Vikings for The Athletic and TheAthletic.com, for he has negotiated the roads to get to Buffalo Wild Wings Monticello. And young Alec will join the Friday football feast around the corner at FM 100.3 KFAN. Ladies and gentlemen, from the fighting city of Anniston, Alabama, by way of Andover, Minnesota, where he is relocated and he lives, he covers the Minnesota Vikings for The Athletic and TheAthletic.com, and has been a wonderful find by 9 to Noon Productions. He also has a podcast. Can we get a witness and a raucous round of applause for Mr. Alec Lewis joining us at Buffalo Wild Wings Monticello. Hello, Alec.
This place is
it's rocking.
Yeah,
Monticello. It's this way every year.
Really?
This is
I think they just are so excited that PA got a haircut. I think that's
Your haircut's snazzier than mine.
No, I don't think so.
O'Connell got a haircut during the bye. I mean, it's like the time to get a haircut, I guess.
I think so. Yeah, definitely. O'Connell, me, you, all the same. Definitely all in the same category.
Is there a team barber?
I don't know. I don't think so.
There should be, somebody, so the players don't have to go find a barber somewhere. I don't know.
I think they've got. I couldn't name names. I don't want to throw out a free ad for the barber, but I think they've got certain people.
I would think they would.
Yeah.
You know who hasn't gotten a haircut lately is Cam Akers. Who he had
nice transition.
When he was here last year, he had braids. So you'd see him with the helmet off, and there are the braids. You have no idea how long the hair is. He doesn't have braids right now. And my man has some long hair. Cam Akers in the mix. And by the way, you can read about all of this at The Athletic, TheAthletic.com, or listen to it via Alec's podcast, the Alec Lewis podcast. Listen to it via the free iHeartRadio app, or learn about it at Alec_Lewis via the tweet machine. But for those who may have missed it, when they moved for Akers, whether your intel, your background, or just your discernment, why do you think they did it? What do you think of it? And good morning.
Well, Kevin O'Connell loves Cam Akers. Good morning, yeah. Kevin O'Connell loves Cam Akers. In fact, when I asked him about Cam Akers on the Friday before the Texans game, I said, what do you, to be able to see Cam Akers respond from the Achilles, he literally said, I love Cam Akers. That is how he started his response. And I will tell you, and you know this, PA, but before the season, in the offseason, there was a pretty solid chance that Cam Akers was going to be back in Minnesota for one reason or another, and there could be a lot of reasons for that, from a monetary, from a health. There's a lot that goes on from a business standpoint.
So would you think that there was a point where it was Cam Akers and not Aaron Jones?
No, absolutely not. No, the fact, Aaron Jones is rises to a level that obviously Cam does not, but Cam being a depth option behind and alongside of Ty Chandler was something that they probably envisioned even in the offseason.
Yeah.
Obviously, he ends up signing with Houston, responds really well from the Achilles injury. Even in the preseason, I can remember watching.
Shockingly well.
It's two Achilles, the mental fortitude that a guy would have to respond from two torn Achilles in two different legs in a 3-year span is something beyond, I think, what you could even we just say these guys get hurt and they come back, but you never really think about the amount of work on a day-to-day basis that it takes to rehab an injury like that.
Yeah.
And that's part of why, from a character perspective, Kevin O'Connell wanted him as bad in this front office, wanted him as badly as he did. And it speaks to, and I've thought about this a lot, all of the guys that they've brought in, from a selflessness, from a mindset, chemistry standpoint,
scholars of the game.
It's been so intentional in terms of the type of guy they brought in here.
Yeah.
And I can't help but think that has been critical in what they've done through 5 games.
Amen.
Let's talk about that running back room for just a little bit more. Don't know if Aaron Jones is going to be able to play or not, but Ty Chandler has had we've had some extra looks at Ty Chandler. Now, as Paul knows, last year I had my frustrations with Alexander Madison.
Yep.
I kept saying, can we just give Ty Chandler a chance?
And now you're killing Ty Chandler in the Tolstoy note you sent me last night. You're killing your guy.
The most media thing ever. You can't lose. We love him, but he's great.
My feeling was, let's just see what we got in Ty Chandler. We kept giving him like 3 carries a game. Can we just see what Ty Chandler's got? Well, now we've got a longer look at Ty Chandler's at 42 carries in 5 games, which is not a huge volume, but it's enough where you get a little bit of sample size. Of the 42 runners with his 42 carries, he ranks dead last in broken tackle percentage, dead last in yards after contact, and third from last in yards per carry. So we haven't seen the dynamic Ty Chandler that I had honestly thought that we would get. And to this point, this offense just isn't the same. The drop-off from Aaron Jones to Ty Chandler feels precipitous.
I want to say 3 things. 1, it is a huge drop-off. 2, does it feel as bad as those numbers? Now, it's felt like a major drop-off, but there have been times I feel like maybe it was against the 49ers or the Texans where he did break through and find open grass. Even against the Jets, there was the play that was called back where it was like a 40-yard run. So I'm not sure if it's felt that bad. Mm-hmm. And the third thing I was going to say is this is why they brought in Cam Akers, is because you need depth at that position.
Yep.
If you're giving up a conditional 7th or 6th round pick to be able to do that, it's worth that type of acquisition. And the thing that you didn't mention there, from a from a Ty Chandler perspective, that is important, and I think it's important this weekend against a team that's probably going to blitz a lot, is in pass protection. He's also not phenomenal and nowhere up to par of an Aaron Jones. And I think pass protection from the running back on both sides this weekend is huge. David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs are not really phenomenal at holding up in pass pro. And you have a Brian Flores defense that you guys probably know. They seem to bring pressure sometimes.
Yeah. Once in a while.
That might matter.
Once in a while.
Well, I mean, but off that, I think in the Giants game, they might have blitzed 14 times. Or, I mean, it was like an all-time Flores low. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a win for the Vikings because they won the game. They got the pick 6, and the blitz had nothing to do with it. So, but Brian was setting up there. By the way, I will do this when you think an 80% blitz is coming, and we can still find a way to make it work. So you're telling me that from the Giants game on, the blitzing has gone way up?
No, I don't want to make it sound like that because
it was 80% last year, wasn't it, or something?
It was. I don't know if it was 80%, but it was probably 60%.
Yeah, 58. That's what it was.
They have not had to blitz as much because the pass rush in a Jonathan Grenard and a Jihad Ward on third down, those guys have gotten more pressure than they did last year, even with Danielle Hunter. So why would you? It's just a math problem. Why would you take one defender out of coverage if you don't have to?
Yeah.
So they have rushed the passer very effectively, which is why I think perception is Brian Flores, fight fire with fire, aggression all the time.
Yeah.
But it really hasn't always been that way this year, and I think that's the secret sauce. In the opposing team's mind, it's Brian Flores. You always think they're bringing pressure, but it's not actually the case. And and you're exactly right to even bring that up. And so I think that's part of the deception. Not only is it what they're doing on the field, but it's also like the psyche that Brian Flores as a name of the opposing defensive coordinator just kind of carries.
Okay, now you guys are pro football focus or metric savvy, like with blitz percentages and stuff like that. Because you just said something with the Lions down Aiden Hutchinson. So let's just build it up for context purposes. With Hutchinson, with Hutchinson playing, do the Lions generally blitz a lot?
They get creative and they are exotic at times. I just wanted to use that word.
Okay.
I mean, how could you not use that? Exotic. Like for some reason, football uses the word exotic per capita more than anybody else. Yes, to answer your question, they do blitz, but probably not as much because they don't have to because Aiden Hutchinson creates pressure all the time.
Okay, now, I mean, unless Terrion Arnold or Carlton Davis or Amik Robertson, now Brian Branch can blitz.
Great player.
Okay, Branch can blitz.
He can do everything.
Yeah,
yes.
he's a legitimate, like Chad Greenway was on the radio show 40 minutes ago. Ben Lieber was a naturally better blitzer that Chad Greenway was just not great at blitzing. It was something that not everybody can blitz well, is what I'm saying. Because here's the point: if without Aiden Hutchinson, if the go-to is, well, they have to blitz to cause pressure, Jefferson's going to have 250. Addison's going to have 175. And here's why. Whether Jones plays or not, it's because Alex Anzalone is not a great blitzer. Malcolm Rodriguez is not a good blitzer. Branch is. Robertson, I don't think is. I just don't know where they're going to bring it from with savvy blitzers where it's Darnold on a 3 or 5 step drop and he gets Jefferson on the run against a third or fourth linebacker or a third or fourth corner or a second or third safety. That's lights out. Justin will break the net. If they blitz a lot, Justin Jefferson will break the National Football League record for receiving yards. Boy, he already had 223 against him. Yeah. He had 223 against him 3 games ago. That's pretty close. Yeah. Mark my word.
Flipper Anderson's not sleeping tonight.
Kevin O'Connell will destroy Aaron Glenn's defense if they overly blitz because they're not good at it.
My response to you is, even if they don't overly blitz, I mean, are they not going to throw for 340 yards? That's what they do every time they play against this Detroit team. But what's so interesting is everyone's talked about not having Aiden Hutchinson. Rightfully, he's arguably been the best pass rusher in the NFL.
Yeah.
Carlton Davis is their best cornerback, and he has not practiced this week. So if you're getting worse with the pass rush, then you need to be better in coverage. And if you don't have your number one corner, you're going to be worse in coverage and worse with the pass rush against an offensive coordinator and a passing attack that has already torched you for 2 years on end. So, yeah, it really becomes, to me, whether they blitz or not, a question of pass protection.
Yeah.
Can Blake Brandel, can Ed Ingram,
agreed,
can Garrett Bradbury
agreed,
hold up? And if they can hold up,
right,
then I don't know how there's not going to be Vikings players wearing 18 or 3 or 83 kind of crisscrossing the field as if they are like running a 3-man weave.
See, that's Aleem McNeil and DJ Reader inside. So that's I'm glad you said they don't need to blitz. They don't need to overly blitz over the course of the game to find a way to create enough middle pressure to get Darnold off his spot.
And I said Ed Ingram, but it could be Dalton Reisner. So
it'll probably be Ed Ingram. You think? I think this thing's more up in the air than I do.
Yeah, I think.
Really?
I think
it depends on how practice goes this week, and it probably depends maybe early in the game. But I'll tell you that I would not be absolutely surprised if Dalton Reisner is at right guard on Sunday.
Got it.
That's a heavily couched statement, but okay. It sounded like you were going to call Reisner the starter a second ago.
I'm not. Right. I'm not going all the way there, but I have enough to where I think it is possible.
Okay.
And that will probably get aggregated, and someone will yell at me, but it's what happens.
Watching the Lions this year, there are times when this team is absolutely dominating, including their last game against the Cowboys, which was as one-sided as any game this year. And you feel like, geez, this Lions team is great. And they are really good. They're really, really good. I'm not taking anything away from them, but the Vikings are battle-tested against some of the best teams and defenses in the league. And let me tell you a little bit about the Lions' opponents so far, especially defensively.
Wow.
They have played the Rams, the Bucks, the Cardinals, the Seahawks, and the Cowboys. By points allowed, those teams are average 26th in the league. By yards allowed, they're 25th in the league.
Yeah.
And you can't average 32 because you can't play the bottom team every year. I mean, this is about as bad and easy a defensive schedule as you could ever ask for to start a season. And I feel like the Vikings, for all this, have had a similar level of offensive success, but they've done it against far better defenses so far. And even the Giants, which have turned into actually a shockingly good defense.
One of my biggest questions in this game is, like, Jared Goff has not really, it doesn't feel like he's felt any stress since Tampa Bay. And what happened in Tampa Bay? They lost that game. So
at home.
If I'm looking at really, at The Athletic, we do like John Krasinski's the best. He and I do a preview every week. And at the top, we start with a what I'm watching. And for me this weekend, it's Jared Goff. There's a statistic I'm going to give you. You're a stats guy, right? The people here probably like, enough with the numbers, kid. But Jared Goff when he throws the ball in under 2.5 seconds.
Ooh, look out.
When he gets the ball off
Just
quick
kidding.
in under 2.5 seconds, he is second worst in the NFL. When he holds the ball past 2.5 seconds, and this is an EPA, he is top 3, I believe, in the NFL.
Yeah.
And part of the reason they have constructed their team the way they have is because their offensive line is so good, which allows them to hold the ball. And when he holds the ball, he places it accurately with arm strength. And so the question for me defensively this week is, A, can they get an early lead to force Detroit into a passing team?
Yeah.
And then B, if they can they make Jared Goff get rid of the ball quickly, feel angst early in the game? And if they can do that, given the fact that he has not faced the type of stress that this defense offers, I think they have a really good chance in the game. And I'm not going to predict a receiver catching more yards than any.
Oh, wait. Let me, FICA, Fairness and Charging Act. Nice poll. Flipper Anderson, November 26th of 1989. With the Rams, Willie Flipper Anderson, 336 yards, National Football League record. Nice.
Is that a real player?
Yeah, Flipper Anderson out of UCLA for the Rams.
Isn't that your nickname, Flipper? People
Flipper?
Yeah.
Now they call me Orca.
Okay. I don't know what that means.
It's because of his blowhole.
Okay.
This is the latest you
guys are off the rails.
You guys are the best.
In Monticello, you're going to be off the rails. Mm-hmm. What would you expect?
This is the latest in a season-long series of litmus tests for the Vikings. Week 1, when we didn't know quite what we had on our hands, we were like, well, this is a real litmus test against another team that's trying to establish itself, line of scrimmage, Dexter Lawrence, blah, blah, blah. Then they go, and the Vikings handily win that one. Then here comes San Francisco. We're like, well, this is the litmus test,
every
right?
week.
Because this is, now you got to go play the Niners. They're going to play a Super Bowl team. Then they handle the Niners. Then it's Houston. Yeah. And we're like, okay, wait.
Stroud, he's
right?
Such a good, can they handle Will Anderson and Daniil? If they can handle this, they're for real after this.
Exactly. I feel, and now we run it all the way up to this game, and now this is the new and latest litmus test for this team.
Well, this is the best team they've faced on the schedule in my opinion. I like Detroit, full compliment. Now, no Aiden, every bit as much as San Francisco, and I think Detroit should have beaten the 49ers and gone to the Super Bowl last year, but people started messing things up. So
like their coach.
Houston could probably
shiny toy.
I don't know.
Houston's great.
Shiny toy.
I think between D'Amico and Bobby, I just think the Vikings suffocated them defensively.
Yeah. Well, they're going to lose to Green Bay this weekend, too.
I don't like one of the defining images for me thus far this year, and maybe we'll see how it plays out the next 10 weeks or whatever it is C.J. Stroud. I never forget, I had my binoculars on the sideline looking at him after maybe in the third quarter, and he was just looking down at the ground like you would if you were a baseball, an MLB hitter, and you struck out 4 times and 4 at bats. I mean, it was like a look of absolute being depleted. But there's no question this is a test, and it's funny you said that because every week it's the cliche of Kevin O'Connell. We have to prove it again every week. It's true. Because if you get beat 40-3 this weekend, then everybody's gonna say, well, it wasn't sustainable. That's just the way the narratives around this league go, and they're always going to go. So you really do have to prove it every week, as much as they do say that, and it is cliche.
With O'Connell and C.J. Stroud, with what you said, so you got your 10 by 50s. You got your 10 by 50s on C.J. Stroud, and he's wiping his face is going into the palm of his hands. He's just super dejected. Look at that, the YA fan base is partying.
They're here.
Yeah, well, it's a long drive back to Anniston. Yep,
guy kind of looks like Tony Bennett, who's
Roll
just
Tide.
retired. I don't think the
singer or the basketball coach.
The basketball coach. I don't know what the singer.
Right, because we left Brock Purdy's heart in San Francisco.
All right, keep going.
The way he got beat.
Kevin O'Connell, C.J. Stroud, facing.
When O'Connell, either in press conferences because you attend them all and I don't, or if he's chatting with you for a story or whatever, or in one of those sneaky backgrounds which we never bring up, but I think it's okay to bring this up, something like this, if he indeed has gone down that road. And here's the road. Does he get into noticing in previous games, expressions of people on the sideline and the dejected nature? Has he ever brought that up to you?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's massive. like I've done this job a long time, and I've never had coaches go down the road to me about what they see in previous games from the next opponent on the sideline. This is unbelievable. Like, this happened, and this whole thing freaked out on the sideline because it hasn't necessarily faced a lot of pressure. So I'm sure this is not the first group to do this, but wow, do they make some good points coming into games, because we heard a lot of that about C.J. Stroud. Has he really faced pressure? Has he really faced situations like A, B, C, and D? The answer is no.
The word that I would use to sum up this staff right now is awareness. Like, they are, I mean, between Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores, among Keenan Mark Cardell, and
Ryan Cordell,
and Mike Saravo, Ryan Cordell, Mike Pettin, who's done it forever. There is they are just keenly aware of, I think, what is required every Sunday, and what it is, and what is all really impressive with Kevin. And he rarely gets in O'Connell. He rarely gets into this because you don't get an unfiltered look at him all the time. But what he is able to do during a game, what he is able to see during a game, opposing coverages,
unbelievable,
opposing front structures. Like, we always, people you hear all the time watching TV, in-game adjustments. Yeah. And I always have wondered, like, is that a real thing in football, or is that more like different? But this staff and their ability to be able to see things, identify them, and then tweak things in real time, it takes a level of awareness that also accompanies the roster they've built in the first place. So I'm glad. I mean, you bring it up, but they're like body language, momentum,
massive,
all of that stuff they pay attention to.
Yeah.
You were talking about flummoxed quarterbacks. Am I correct? I think it was Brock Purdy right after the game. Didn't he hunt down Flores to basically tell him, you baffled me for this whole game?
Crazy scheme. I think
crazy scheme.
Yeah.
I mean, this never happens.
Well, Flores just wanted to see his face because he wanted Purdy to see the face of somebody that just flummoxed him. Because Brock was like, cool scheme, dude. And then he wanted to continue, Brian. And Brian just walked away.
I'll tell you, Flores... And I've talked about this with the other media members, but we go out to practice for the first 20 minutes every single day.
How is Matthew these days?
The first 20 minutes we're out there, and everybody's out there for stretch. The defensive players, Harrison Smith standing next to Stephon Gilmore, they're messing around. All the coaches are out there. But one guy is the last out to practice every single day, and it's Brian Flores. And he walks slowly with a flat bill down with a hoodie as if whatever's about to happen is going to be something that we don't see, because there is violence coming. And it is every single day. And I've noticed it from the time he got here. Sometimes when it's sunny, there are sunglasses. I mean, he looks like he is ready to just give it to the opposition, which they have done every single week. And I mean, I tried to...
Well, the Tuesday press conference, you might ask the question. Somebody asked the question.
Ben did, I think.
Yeah, and he's like, no, I fight fire with fire. Okay, next question, please, 'cause now I'm scared.
Well, and I tried to explain in a story I did earlier this week, what they have actually done schematically to make this so difficult. And I had this long paragraph, and I'm like, I can't even mentally wrap my head around, if you're playing quarters and you're also playing palms, is palms quarters? Is it the same? How many defenders are deep? I was so confused in my own head that, and I like to think I'm I can kind of understand it.
Yeah.
That you imagine.
You're elephant-like.
So I actually called an NFL quarterback who's currently in the league, who hasn't faced Brian Flores, and I asked him,
how is Spurgeon win?
I asked him, and my dad is on FaceTime, which is so
Hey,
odd.
everybody, Alec's dad back in Anniston, Alabama, say hi to him. He never gets to come to the feast.
The point is,
hilarious.
If there's so much movement pre-snap that the quarterback cannot identify how many players are deep and how many players underneath, it's impossible. What makes it even harder is oftentimes the coverages that the Vikings are playing right now only declare once the receiver's routes declare. And so the quarterback has to wait for that to happen, which is confusing to even say, and the people are looking at me with glassy eyes, and I was looking at my
We're getting hardcore right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to understand, but my dad texted me probably what is this guy?
That's Alec Lewis from The Athletic and TheAthletic.com, part of the Friday Football Feast from Buffalo Wild Wings Monticello. And we head into the final hour of the presentation after this on KFAN.